All right, hey everyone, we're getting ready for our virtual pizza class on Sunday. This video is for everyone that either wants to make the dough twice or wants to enjoy pizza on Sunday. Keep in mind, this dough is a 3-day process. So plan your weekend accordingly. You have the recipe, everything is written down for you, but it's always helpful to see everything firsthand and see all of the steps and what is happening. We're gonna talk about all of this in depth during the live stream. So we're not gonna cover the whys and the hows today. This is really just visual, walking through the entire process that you would do yourself in advance on Saturday in preparation of the live stream on Sunday, if you did not want to cook along on Sunday and only shape, proof, and bake, enjoying your pizza the day of the live stream. If you're okay with following along Sunday, enjoying pizza on Monday, then maybe this video is not for you, but that's all right. You'll still learn something. You'll see all of the steps. Let's get started. All right, first things first, we're gonna get all of our flour here into the bowl. There's no way around it. You need a digital kitchen scale. Whenever you're making bread, dough, or pizza, there are only gram measurements for this recipe, and I'm sorry, but if you do any sort of baking or cooking at home, it is worth getting yourself a scale. Now, I'm going with Hayden Flour Mills here. This is not sponsored. This is just an awesome family-run company from Arizona that mills all of their own heritage grain wheats every week. So if you order from them, you're getting freshly milled wheat, one of the best and most flavorful things. And to me, what really makes dough special. So we're going to go with our wheat, our flour right here into the bowl. All right, next, our hydration. Starting with warm water here. I'm using warm water right from the tap. If you have hot water, you add cold milk to. They should balance out to about that 80-degree mark that you're looking for. Keep in mind, if you're using tap water, make sure you would drink the tap water. Otherwise, if you're not feeling good about that, use bottled water. It makes a difference when you're making dough. So again, hot tap water here, measured out. Then we're going to add milk from the fridge. Then together, hot water, cold milk should bring our mixture here to right about 80 degrees, right where we want it for making bread. If you find that it's a little hotter or a little colder, either stick it in the microwave or just leave it on the counter to come to room temperature. Then to start our Autolyse, the first step of the bread making here, we're gonna add almost all of our water and milk mixture here to our flour, holding back about 60 grams. Then coming in here, I just like to mix this together by hand. We're not kneading, we're just bringing the dough together. So I prefer to do this whole mix by hand. You could use a machine. Just keep in mind, you're not trying to develop any gluten. You're just hydrating the flour here. Once you see your dough comes together, I like to use a reusable shower cap. Keep this covered. We'll set ourselves a timer. Come back to it in about 45 minutes. All right, 45 minutes are up. Time for the next stage of our dough making. We can see here that there has been some nice gluten formation. The dough is stretching beautifully. Time to add our pre-ferment. So this you should have started last night if you plan on making the dough today or right now. There's no specific time on this. I say 12 to 18 hours. You go all the way up to 24 hours prior to kneading it and you're good to go. To this, we're going to add our honey directly to the bowl. I do that right on the scale. And then half of our reserved milk and water mixture and all of our instant yeast. We'll give this a pre-mix here before we add it into here. And we're just gonna dump this on top of this. So this is a little awkward to mix it first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Start by just spreading the pre-ferment over the top of your Autolyse dough, and then you're just gonna grab it and start to squeeze and work everything together. Now this mixing process takes about 5 minutes. You wanna really make sure everything is equally combined. Start to fold it over itself. turn the bowl as I'm doing this to make sure everything mixes nice and evenly. So after a couple minutes of bringing this together, we're going to become very familiar with known as the Rubaud Mixing technique. You're going to cup your fingers into a scoop-like motion, coming in from the side, going underneath the dough, pulling up, and then just placing it back down under itself. And you're just going to repeat this motion while you're twisting the bowl, pulling the dough out and under over itself. And it feels a little awkward at first, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes and the more fluid your motion will be. But through this mixing, we're able to stretch the dough and make sure we're incorporating that Levain evenly, and all of that yeast is getting dispersed throughout the entire dough that we're working with. So again, we're scooping our hands, coming up underneath, lifting up, pulling, and stretching the dough down and under, mixing and incorporating everything. And we're watching the dough now. We want to make sure there's no more webbing, that you don't see any signs of the Levain or two different colors in the dough. Everything looks homogeneous and even. This process should take no more than 5 minutes. Now that our dough is smooth and everything is evenly incorporated, we're just going to cover it again with our reusable shower cap, set another timer, and let this rest. So now that our yeast and pre-ferment has been added to the dough, we want to start tracking our bulk proof. So that's going to be 1 timer, just counting upwards to keep track of the whole fermentation. All right, time for our last addition here. Is our olive oil, our salt, and the last of our water and our milk. Last of our water and milk. So we'll sprinkle our salt right on top, and on the last of our liquids. And we're gonna go with the same mixing technique we just did, slowly incorporating all of that into our dough. You'll notice the dough gets a little stretchier. And really just squeezing, turning, and folding, working in that oil, water, milk, and salt. And then once you notice this stringiness starts to come together, it's gonna look weird at first. Just trust the process. We'll switch back to the Rubaud mixing technique. Lifting underneath the dough, stretching up underneath itself and pulling it backwards. That's gonna allow us to evenly, easily, and efficiently incorporate our additions. And again, this mixing process shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. You can see after just a minute or so, the dough's already starting to come together and absorb all that liquid. See, it's starting to smooth out here along the surface of the dough, and that's when we can switch to this underhand mixing. You're looking for the sheen from all that oil to completely disappear. You want to make sure it's completely incorporated and emulsified into the dough. See now the dough is completely transformed into this nice, smooth, round ball. We'll cover it one more time and then begin our bulk proof. All right, our dough has been resting. Time now for our first set of folds. When folding, it always helps to have wet hands. I like to keep either the sink nearby or a small container of water just to wet your fingers so the dough doesn't stick. What we're gonna do is work our way around the bowl, pulling the dough up, stretching over itself, rotating and turning. And don't be afraid to wet your fingers. If when you find the dough is starting to stick. And you want to go all the way around twice for a total of about 6 or 8 stretch and folds. The dough should get nice and tight, pulling around itself. And then at the end, you'll wet your hands and you want to do your best to pick up the dough and flip it over so all of the folds are tucked underneath. Also important, just keep in mind, I like to temp my dough the entire time, trying to keep it in an ideal proofing temp range. We're talking 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep in mind, it does make a big difference. We'll cover this, set another timer, and come back. All right, we're back. 30 minutes have gone by. Time for our second set of stretch and folds. You see the dough has relaxed. We'll wet our hand again. Coming in, same thing, stretching up to the center, rotating all the way around for about 6 to 8 folds. So we just finished our second set of stretch and folds. Rather than picking it up and flipping it into the same bowl, at this point I like to transfer it to a square or round container. I just find it's easier to work out of than a bowl. For transferring, using a plastic scraper allows you to get underneath it in the bowl, or you could just wet your hands, pick it up, flip it over, and place it right into your container. Now we have a lid for this, and we'll do the rest of our folding out of here. Now that we've done the stretch and folds, it's time to begin the coil folds. It's a slightly different technique, still wetting your hands. You're going to pick the dough up from the center, stretch until it detaches from the container. Starting with the side furthest away from you, you're going to fold the dough up in a coil, dragging it up underneath itself. I like to then rotate the pan so I'm always working away from myself to keep track of the direction I'm going in. Now I'm going to pick up the entire dough mass, lift up, and do the same coil fold, pressing the dough under and coiling it underneath. Then we'll rotate the pan 90 degrees and do those same motions. You'll notice the dough starts to get tighter. You can pull that to the center. Now you'll rotate all the way around. You'll lift up the entire dough. You'll stretch up the far end, fold it underneath, and then tuck your sides in. And you'll notice the wet hands allow you to not get the dough all over yourself. We have a nice loaf shape starting to form, and we're able to then cover the dough and let it rest again. We're going to continue these coil folds every 30 minutes, building strength within the dough. So now we're back. We're gonna do another set of coil folds, just wetting our hands here. Same exact motion, grabbing from underneath in the center of the dough, lifting up and tucking the far end underneath to the center, turning the tray all the way around 180 degrees, picking up everything from the bottom, lifting up, letting the dough tuck underneath, laying it down. Now going in this direction, we can wet our hands. If you notice the dough is starting to get a little sticky, picking up from the center, letting the far end stretch underneath to the center, and then rotating all the way around for the last coil fold, grabbing both pieces of dough, holding everything underneath, letting that last bit drag down, placing the dough on top, and then just tucking in the sides. We'll place the lid back on and allow this to rest, continuing to proof somewhere warm. All right, time for another coil fold here. This process does get repetitive. We're gonna continue repeating it with the same exact motions, building strength in the dough. What we're looking for in terms of strength is how well the dough holds its shape when we pull it up, how easily it folds under itself, and how quickly it relaxes into the pan. This process generally takes 4 to 6 hours from the time you started your bulk. We'll cover this and continue to let it rest. And coming in here again, just a different angle, but we're gonna do the same coil fold, wetting our hands, grabbing the dough from the center, pulling it upwards, letting the end furthest away from us fold underneath, rotating the dough all the way around, picking up the entire dough, letting the other end drop down on top. 2 more times, down underneath, rotating it all around, picking the whole mess up, letting it fold down and underneath. Continuing the coils, folding the dough down underneath itself. We'll cover this and let it rest again. Coming in for one of our last folds here, you can see the dough is staying nice and round. It's tall, it's not too jiggly. It's got some good strength and body to it. Wet hands and the same motions. Coming underneath, picking it up, folding it under, rotating, coming underneath, picking up the whole dough, going under. You can really see after this fold, we're coming up on 4.5 hours now. Big, tall, poofy, starting to hold its shape. Just a few more folds and rests. Alright, so we're here at the end of our bulk proof. We're gonna give it one more set of coil folds, wetting our hands, coming in and doing the same motion we've been doing for the past couple of hours. You can see the dough has filled up the pan. It's nice, it's not stretching or tearing. It's soft and bubbly. You can hear gnocchi meowing in the background. Now I'm just gonna cover this. I'm gonna stick it into cold storage to proof overnight for the next 14 to 18 hours or so. And that's it for this part of the video. I will see you all during the live stream where we'll be proofing, shaping, and baking our pizza here, finishing everything off, as well as starting over from the beginning, going in detail about the whys and the hows about every part of this recipe. So now keep in mind, if you wanted to make pizza twice, maybe you can start the Levain on your own on Friday, do this whole process on Saturday, join me for the live stream on Sunday, but then start a separate Levain on Saturday night. So that way you have 2 different batches of pizza, one you did on your own and one you're doing with me. Because at the end of the day, whoever got upset about having too much pizza?